Russia maintains its position as one of the leading oil producers despite the use of unfair competition mechanisms against us. We provide about 10% of global production and expect that by the end of the year, 510 million tons of oil will be produced in our country. I want to point out that this is done not only for producers but also for consumers. The result of joint efforts is evident. First of all, I mean the supply volumes in the market and the price situation. The Russian energy system is one of the largest in the world. Our generation facilities have a total installed capacity of almost 270 gigawatts, and this enormous complex operates steadily and efficiently. The first such challenge is the reconfiguration of global energy connections. It largely has an objective, natural character. New centers of economic development simply emerge. Consumption grows there. That's all. But we are, of course, also facing an artificial disruption of the energy architecture caused by the aggressive and very assertive actions of some Western elites. As you know, many European countries, for example, under political pressure, have refused to purchase Russian energy resources. I have already noted what such a refusal leads to for the Western countries themselves, for their economic and production potential. The consequences of these actions can be observed in the European Union itself, including a decline in industrial output, rising prices due to more expensive overseas oil and gas, a decrease in the competitiveness of European goods and the economy as a whole. According to Eurostat data, the volume of industrial production in the Eurozone in July of the current year remains 1.2% below the level of 2021. The decline in industrial production continues in the so-called locomotive of the European economy, Germany. In July of the current year, the decrease was 6.6% compared to the average level of 2021. Well, electric motors are appearing. Well, yes, true. But electricity has to come from somewhere. It doesn't just appear from the socket, this electricity. It has to be produced from something, from fuel oil, from coal, and so on. Russia maintains its position as one of the leading oil producers despite the use of unfair competition mechanisms against us. We provide about 10% of global production and expect that by the end of the year, 510 million tons of oil will be produced in our country. This is approximately 1% lower than last year, but I want to draw your attention, dear colleagues, this is happening in accordance with the agreements within the OPEC Plus framework, meaning it is a voluntary reduction. Russia continues cooperation within the framework of OPEC Plus. Based on mutual interest, we and our partners fulfill obligations to balance the global oil market. I want to point out that this is done not only for producers but also for consumers. The result of joint efforts is evident. First of all, I mean the supply volumes in the market and the price situation. These parameters satisfy both oil producers and consumers, allow the industry to launch investment projects, and most importantly, provide conditions for a more predictable development of the entire global economy. And the predictability in the oil market is probably the most important thing in this sector of the global economy. Gas consumption is steadily growing in the Asia-Pacific region, the Middle East, and Latin America, while in Europe, demand for gas is still below the 2019 level. Why is the demand for primary energy lower? Because industrial production is decreasing. No need for so much, that's all. The European Union's démarche only accelerated the shift in the direction of our supplies towards more promising, responsible buyers, countries that know their interests and act rationally based on these national interests. Our gas companies provide these markets with reliable supplies, We are increasing domestic consumption, which is extremely important, including at gas chemical enterprises being built in the Volga region, Siberia, and the Russian Far East. We are increasing the supply of natural gas to our cities and towns. For this, in just the last 5 years, about 100,000 kilometers of gas distribution networks have been laid. As a result, the level of gasification in Russia is approaching 75% and will undoubtedly continue to grow. If Western markets are reducing coal demand, Asian countries are increasing their consumption. It is clear that the question is primarily about the economic efficiency of coal generation. But considering the shift of global business activity to the Asia-Pacific region, it can be expected that the coal market will remain significant and large for decades to come. In the next 25 years, global electricity generation will double, with about 85% of the additional demand being generated outside the so-called developed economies in the countries of the global south. The Russian energy system is one of the largest in the world. Our generation facilities have a total installed capacity of almost 270 gigawatts, and this enormous complex operates steadily and efficiently. At the same time, we have local electricity shortages, primarily in areas where large industrial, transport and logistics projects are being built. This deficit needs to be covered by developing power grids, updating the fleet of generating equipment, and commissioning new power plants. At the same time, I emphasize, the costs of energy companies should not be mechanically transferred into tariffs onto the shoulders of consumers. More flexible solutions are needed, including regulatory innovations, demand management for electricity, and mechanisms to support investments in the fuel and energy complex. I ask the government of Russia to determine the place of fuel energy balances in the system of the country's strategic documents. Together with colleagues from the regions, prepare such balances for all federal districts of Russia, and based on them, form a modern system of digital management of the region's energy supply. Such a system, I repeat, should take into account the use of different types of fuel and energy resources that are most efficient for each region of our country.